What's up, everyone? Welcome to Wins and Lessons. We win some, we learn some. This is a podcast about the fears, failures, and fun of being a dad.
Yeah, and today we talked to Brandon. Brandon is a father of three. He's a teacher. He has kids who are teenagers, and so we get an interesting perspective on maybe some of the things he did right and maybe some of the challenges he's currently facing.
Yeah, it's a good conversation for us because he's just even a few years ahead of us as far as the ages of kids. And there are some great reminders in there and encouragement for Nathan and I, and hopefully for you, and even how to respond and discipline kids, and some lessons learned in those categories. And we start off talking about pizza and breaking cell phones and the failures of dad. So
Real talk.
Yeah, we hope you guys enjoy this episode and are encouraged in this. What was your experience like growing up with your dad?
Sure.
Like, do you have a relationship with him? Was it good? Was it bad? Like, what was that like?
Yeah, I had a fantastic upbringing. My dad was great. Spent lots of time with us. We did lots of vacations, and everything. And him and my mom both raised us, in the Lord. Yeah. Which is, I'm so fortunate to have that.
Right.
I would say my mom was the strong, spiritual kind of leader, of the home. So we always attended church, and we could talk about things, related to the Lord. Yeah. And my dad was such a great model for what a dad, should be and what a dad, could be. He has his faults, like I have my faults, like we all do, right? None of us are, none of us are perfect. None of us are qualified, I think, when we go into, becoming a dad, because none of us have ever done it, kind of a thing. And a lot of us rely on, what we saw, growing up. And so, so my dad was, he was involved, and he spent time with us. And like I said, took us on adventures and things like that, and really showed us. And my dad is he's so generous, and he taught me how to be, how to be generous, to others, and just a good man. And I really wanted to be, the dad, that he was. Really? And so I'll tell him that all the time. Yeah. How much I appreciate him and so many great memories, so many things that he taught me, growing up. I wanted to take that into my kids. So if I can be half the dad that my dad was, then I think that's successful.
That's pretty special.
Yeah. It sounds like you were set up pretty good for fatherhood. He raised you in the Lord, right? So he gave you a great example of what a father looks like. Probably it sounds like a good example of what the Heavenly Father looks like, right? Because we say this a lot. Hey, like if you should be, as a dad, you should be given a good example of like the Heavenly Father's characteristics, right? So I guess,
which is equally encouraging and daunting.
Yeah.
Like, the response, we've talked about that before in recent episodes, and just personally, like the responsibility that we can carry sometimes when we misrepresent the Father's heart. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was telling Nathan earlier, like I literally walked into here and he's like, "How's your day?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh," I just like literally exploded on my two boys. Yes. Because they were just bugging me about something. And so I just I went like Incredible Hulk had just exploded on them. Yeah. And I thought to myself, hey, you know what this is? Would God do this to me? And like, no. So I had to go apologize to him and things like that. But it's like, it's hard to live up to that. Probably a lot easier when you have a earthly dad who is a good example and gives you some good to follow. But like, so you have kids. Tell us about your family now, your kids, and like, I'd be interested. Were you able to sort of like transition into fatherhood like pretty well?
Sure.
Based on like your experience?
Sure. So and first I would say, I just blew up on one of my kids, and I accidentally broke
blowing up on kids, give it up.
And I accidentally broke their cell phone. So
accidentally.
But it was totally my fault. It was in anger, and everything. So that wasn't my intention, but it happened. Yeah. So I made it right.
This conversation is just going so good.
Oh man,
it's a great start. It's the best
Misery of the year right here.
Loves company.
Oh yeah, and so over something, silly. It was, did you put the pizza away? No, you didn't. I told you to do it again. And then you just did it half-hearted and it's falling out all over the place. And the attitude and, and everything. So
escalates.
So I had to go back and, apologize. And it was, I was wrong to get angry. And I think that's a big part, for me is, I know I'm not perfect,
right.
And nor are my kids. They're filthy, rotten sinners, just like I am, And, but it's so important for me and my wife as well to go back and apologize, when we're wrong. And we tell them like, kids, we're not perfect. And,
right.
And I hope you don't expect us to be, and don't get your hopes up because we're not going to be perfect. We're going to make mistakes, but you know what? We will acknowledge those, and we will go back and and apologize. But being a father, we had kids later on, and I was in my late 20s. Same with my wife. And we spent a lot of time together. We wanted to do that. We did some traveling and stuff like that. And we were just, I think, too selfish, to have kids. We're both teachers. And so we thought, going into this, like, okay, we've got some experience with kids. We're a little bit older, man. This is, come on.
So you had experience with kids,
be, right?
And you still,
yes, that bad, right?
What's that thought? Like, I'm sure I'm butchering. There's probably a cleaner quote, but like, you're never a better parent than when before you have kids, like then right before you have kids, like you think you're the best parent. Yeah.
So true.
Yeah.
I know, we would see kids, from other families, not that we were judgmental, but the kids would just be throwing just a tantrum, and everything. And we would see those things and just remember thinking like, if our kid does that, we're just going to very calmly and, and everything. And then reality hits, right?
And then, flash forward to breaking their cell phone.
Cut to,
right, exactly.
Put the pizza away.
Yeah, exactly. I know. And so anyways, I just remember going to the hospital and Amber had our firstborn. And I remember her specifically, they were wheeling her out and they had her stand up and we were ready to go. And we were kind of like, wait, just a second. You can't leave us. Like, you don't even know us. Like, we don't know anything about taking care of a child. What do we do? And they were just like, just go, you'll be fine, shooing us off, and everything. Jeez. You're going to be okay. But it was frightening. Like reality hit right there. Like, oh my gosh, I'm in charge of this little child. Do they know that I have no idea what I'm doing,
right.
with a kid? And so I think that was the first time where I was like, like this is real. But yeah, we had, we were both teachers and so we have experience with kids and we had read parenting books and everything. And, kind of like, I don't know, maybe a little bit of a big head on our shoulders. We probably needed a little bit of humility, just a little bit,
sure.
When we're like, hey, but reality hits, very quickly. And when you've gone through an entire night without getting any sleep and you get up to work the next day, and everything, you're not always acting like you want to,
right.
in your right, in your right mind. So that was quite the experience. I know, I would say our first, one of our fails was, we thought, we're going to make sure our kids eat very, very healthy and we're going to develop their palate and introduce them to a lot of different foods and everything. And so when they become, older and teenagers, maybe, then they're going to eat so well.
Make good choices. Yeah.
Forget that. Developing the palate does not work. We developed their palate really well and they eat Cheetos and donuts. They're, really kids.
So I remember I think this is pretty typical with a lot of parents too. It's like, hey, I think we got vegetables and we were organic vegetables and we made sure they all had vegetables and even with other stuff, if their like little pacifier fell on the floor, it was like boiled in water for like 24 hours.
Yeah. And then the last kid, you're kind of like, blow it off and you stick it back in there.
Yeah, here's some Cheetos, it just all goes out the window.
So how many kids total are we at right now?
So we're at 3. Okay. Yep. I've got two high schoolers. They're all teenagers. So I've got 2 high schoolers and a middle schooler, and that is a whole different world. When they're young, like that was the most tiring I've ever been. Because our kids didn't sleep real well But now it's a different
tire.
Different tire. Like we're going all the time. Like I'm an extremely experienced Uber driver, but I've never been paid a dime for it. And they've all got these social lives and everything. So it's a different kind. And you got to stay on your toes all the time when they're teenagers.
Do you feel like you? We'll get into a win and a lesson in a second, but as it stands right now with teenagers and middle schoolers, from your perspective, we only know. It's hard to know like how they really feel at times, but do you feel like you have a pretty good relationship with them now? Like conversationally, like they seem to be okay to talk with you and share some things with you.
Yeah. And that's one, just kind of thinking about some of the things that we would, that we've would improve on, or some things that we would have maybe done different, or some things that we continue to do. I think that's one thing, is keeping that open dialogue, with them. Cause our kids aren't perfect, they've sown some oats as they're growing older.
Sure.
And so, but I think what we really try is, okay, so maybe you did something, but you need to tell us, about it. And it's so important to have that, I think, that open dialogue with them. And so some of the things that they've done, they have told us.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes it's because they got caught.
Yeah, right.
So they have to. But then other times they have come clean about some of the things that they've done.
What do you feel like there was, I want to stay on this for a second. Do you feel like there was anything that you could point to years ago that you did as a dad that has afforded you the luxury or your child's like for them to be up to you now, like for them to be talking to you now? Do you feel like there was anything that you were intentional about, or that you could say, you know what, I wonder, like we could never fully know, but I wonder if they're willing to talk to me now because of the way I was a dad 10 years ago or something?
Sure. So, me growing up, I was, I don't know, fairly straight-laced. Like I think every kid rebels in some way. I didn't do that too much. Yeah. Same thing with my wife, but maybe she was a little bit more, than me. But the kid, we both talked to him about our past and about our struggles and things like that. And especially, with like, for example, my boys, I'll tell them, hey, everybody's got something that they struggle with, right? Or something that they've struggled with the past. And so I'll talk to them, about that. Yeah. I'll talk to them about purity and keeping, their mind and their eyes, clean. And I'll tell them, I'll be honest with you guys, when I was young, here was the struggles that I had.
Sure.
And this is what I did, and this is what I wish I had done different. So you can clearly see I'm not perfect.
Right.
And these are the things that I struggle with, and I still put protections in my life, to try to prevent me, because Satan wants that, for me, wants to, he wants to destroy our lives.
Right.
And so I think and I hope by sharing with them our struggles then and our struggles now, that hopefully they feel like that they're more comfortable with sharing, and they have mentioned that.
Yeah, they're comfortable because they're like, hey, my dad does this too. Like he's not gonna judge me, right? Because he thinks these things too. And I think when you have someone who you really look up to and they share some of the same struggles, that makes it a really safe place.
Yeah. You've modeled openness.
Sure.
You've modeled brokenness, right? Like, I'm not perfect.
Yeah.
What are some of the struggles that having two kids in high school, one kid in junior high? What are some of the things that kids are struggling with nowadays that maybe you didn't like anticipate?
Yeah.
And also being an educator, right? You're a high school teacher, so you see a lot.
Yeah. One of the biggest things are cell phones, and I know that's like kind of cop out, because you're like, well, of course they didn't. We didn't grow up with cell phones, and everything. I didn't get a computer till high school, and everything. And on that topic, they have access to things that we would have had to go out and seek, inappropriate content, and things of that lines. And so we would have had to go out and seek out that stuff. With cell phones, they have that right at their fingertips. They have communication with anybody and everybody they want to right at their fingertips. And so, the cell phone has been. It is the biggest distraction in the classroom, and it is probably the biggest distraction to my kids, whether it's getting their chores done or their homework or just living a healthy, normal mental life. It's the biggest. I would say that's the biggest struggle. Yeah. So I did not anticipate that, so as such, that's kind of a big theme for us. We tried to delay that as much as possible because we knew it was going to be somewhat of an issue. And so we kind of slowly worked them up to that. And at the same time, we're still monitoring that, that usage, whether it's whether it's making sure that you have a filter, on your phone, letting them know like, hey, we if you have a cell phone, we're paying for it, and we have your passcode, and if you want this cell phone, we will have access to it, and we will check this periodically. And so we put limits on their time and, things of that line. But anyways, that's probably one of the biggest things, honestly, is that access to anything and everything they want right at their fingertips. So we tried to limit that.
The internet,
yes.
Right, yeah.
Yep.
I see that kind of in my kids even now who don't have cell phones. We've got a family laptop and we've got a family iPad. But not only in like the porn sense, which obviously, but also this is what I'm noticing lately. I think Nathan, I've talked about this with like sports equipment and stuff, like a lack of contentment. Like I'm constantly being pestered, like, hey, Dad, can I look this up? Can I look this up? It's not like information. It's like window shopping. And it's I think it's stirred within my kids a lust for more. A hunger for more, different. Can I get the newest glove, the latest bat? Like, I got to look at these hats. And so I've kind of established a personal rule now where when it comes to my phone and you asking me to look things up, you can look it up once to see the price. And then you can't come back to ask for it again until you've saved up the money. Like, I want to know that you're serious about wanting to purchase said item and not just, I don't want to feed this like, Consumerism, greed. Yeah, exactly. Like this idea of a lack of contentment for the thing that your grandparent just bought you like 2 weeks ago. Why are you looking for more?
If my kid orders something on like Amazon or even not on Amazon and it's not there in like 2 days, one day, he's like, I can't even believe it.
Yeah.
He's freaking out.
I see that now and they don't even have phones or devices.
Totally.
All right, man. In theme with our aim to sit with other dads, it could be one or multiples, but thus far in your dad career, what would be like a win? What do you feel is something you've done or are currently doing that, man, that goes in the win column? Yeah. This is not that you're like. Not that I'm crushing it, but it's just like I feel this is great.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I would say one of the biggest things is so we have spent a lot of time laying a foundation, biblical foundation for our kids, and we try to live that out. We've all growing up, it's we pray at night. We especially when they're younger, we would read the Bible to them. And We started by reading maybe short chapters, and we were reading through Genesis. But we realized pretty quickly, and my kids brought this up, Dad, why is every chapter you read about circumcision? For some reason, like every single chapter was. And they're like, seriously, Dad, come on. And I'm like, I'm just reading through Genesis. Maybe there is a lot.
Maybe we shake this up a little bit.
So we did. We decided to shake things up a little bit. Right? Like that was the joke. Like, seriously, Dad, not again. So anyways, Action Bible, Brick Bible, those are all fantastic ways, for kids. So we spent a lot of time with that. So we laid that foundation. But I would say that after having laid that foundation, I would say that when we discipline, we learned, and I don't do this perfect every time, obviously, is we try not to discipline in anger. and we try not to discipline before we've talked with one another and make sure each other's on the same same
that's
page.
good.
Amber,
Yeah.
my wife and I, and so as a result, we've had a number of instances. Now, again, I'm not perfect at this. I don't want to give that impression because obviously I'm not. And sometimes I don't do this, but when we do that, when we don't discipline in anger, even though we're mad, even though we're hurt and frustrated, and really, why'd you do this? That has worked the best, I would say, out of any sort of discipline. I've tried it. I've tried yelling and screaming, and it doesn't work.
So when you say you don't discipline in anger, are you saying that you're like, how does that look practically? Because I'm a little conflicted. It's like, number one, I want to like get my emotions are running hot, right? So it's hard to do that. But also, I want to discipline. I feel like sometimes, hey, if I discipline in the moment, then it's going to be the most painful to them. It's going to be the most learning experience because it's like immediate.
Yep.
So do you say, like, what does that look like? Do you say like, hey, you're in trouble. Let me get back to you, kind of thing? What is it?
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
Is that
for
what you
sure.
do?
No, absolutely. Now, not all the time. There are some times, it's as far as, hey, you still didn't clean the bathroom, and I've told you multiple times. And so guess what? You got another chore because you didn't do that. And here's your chore, kind of a thing. But then there's been other times where I am just so angry, so furious, and I've just blown up on him.
Yeah.
And it didn't work at all. And it's, you didn't clean the bathroom. And so, you know what? You're grounded for a month, and you're doing all your friends' chores, and everything. And then my wife's sitting there like, really? Yeah, really? You're going to do that? Well, you know what? You don't understand, kind of a thing. And so what we try, or I should say, what works the best is when there's something that needs to be addressed, and it's major enough, that we need to address it with our kids. It's most effective if my wife and I will go sit down, discuss it, make sure we're on the same page, come up with some sort of consequence, because there has to be some sort of consequence for that, and then go talk with our kid. That works the best. Now,
for both parties, for you and the child.
Yes, absolutely. Now, do I do that all the time? No. Yeah. But I've got great examples of when I didn't do that and it wasn't effective and it didn't correct the behavior. And then I've got examples of when we did do that and it worked. One of my kids had gotten involved in a relationship. We have a rule in our house, before 16, there's no dating, and here's why. We've explained it, and everything. Yeah. And so they did. They were in a relationship at younger.
Sure.
And we found out because many students saw them, which Amber's on campus with them when they're younger. I'm on campus when they're older.
Yeah,
so
sure.
They're gonna find out. And so we did find out about that, and the individual was not at all somebody that they would want to date. Not at all somebody we would approve. And so we.
So where'd you bury the body?
Yeah, right. So Amber and I talked, and so we went and sat down with this child, and we said, "Hey, here's the deal. Here's why." Very calm, and everything, even though we really wanted to. And so we talked through that. There were consequences and everything, but they did come clean, and as far as we know,
Yeah.
And we put a lot of stake in that. If they're honest, we put a lot of stake in honesty. And if they're honest with us, their consequences are definitely less severe than they would be, because we want that open dialogue. We want them to be open with us. And so this was a pretty big deal. Well, later on, we found out, because I was like, I don't know how that worked and everything. Well, they ended up cutting the relationship off. And later on, another teacher came to us and said, "Hey, your child came and talked to us about this instant because I asked him about it." And they said, "How did your parents handle it?" And they said, and this child said, "Wow, they handled it really well. And if they wouldn't have handled it like that, I probably would have said, forget you. I'm still going to do it anyways behind your back, kind of a thing. And I was like, yes, we did something right.
Yeah,
like
man, you
finally,
need those.
oh my gosh. And so I don't want to give the impression that we, we hit the nail on the head all the time.
Right.
But that would be, if we're talking about wins, that's would be
a win.
huge. That would be a huge win.
So let me ask you, like on that, what do you find as a discipline that's actually like behavior changing effective?
Sure. Yeah.
Is screaming doesn't seem to work for me. I'll tell you a funny story. Like
I'm not very scared.
Obviously, like last night was Halloween, right? So my kids came back with a huge bag of candy. I already took all the candy away from my youngest kid. It's gone. As far as he's concerned, it's all in the trash can. I took it all away from him because I did that thing that you were talking about, where I'm just like, you lose all your candy. Yes. So he'll get it back. But now, like, I got to go back on my word a little bit. So I'm definitely the kind of guy who just will start rattling off like you're grounded for a year kind of thing. And I'm just curious, like, what have you found that has, maybe even from the younger ages to now, like that is actually like effective?
Yeah.
Actually like changes their behavior.
Yeah, totally. So I would say, first of all, what we found is it depends on each kid. Mm-hmm. Some people don't believe in spanking. Mm-hmm. We did when they were at a young age, mm-hmm. So some of our kids, that worked great. Quick swat on the rear corrected the behavior. Mm-hmm. Other kids, they were like, dude, I'd rather take that any day than be grounded or have to stay in my room or, whatever. Right. So I guess it would certainly depend upon the kid. And sometimes I feel a little bit diabolical trying to like connive a consequence that would really
hurt
be hurtful. I'm like, oh gosh, really? I gotta. So
I'm going to make you hurt very bad.
Right. I'm like, seriously, I gotta think about this. And so I would say that as best we can, try to make sure that the punishment fits the crime kind of a thing. Yeah. And that seems to be most effective if they didn't clean their part in the bathroom after we told them multiple times. Well, guess what? Now you got double duty and you're doing your brother's job, which is the worst possible thing you could do, kind of thing. So I would say that we try to make it as much as possible to where the punishment fits crime. There's been instances with vehicles and things like that. So it's like, okay, do we take away the vehicle? Let's see, actually, that's really going to hurt us.
Yeah.
So no, but it is going to involve something along those lines. You don't get to go out with your friends, and that would be,
you could use the car to go to school and practices or whatever, and that's it.
And that's it, kind of a thing. And for this particular child, that would be like the worst possible thing that they they can
honestly imagine. Like it's just so thoughtful, and it requires taking the time and thinking it through rather than just being reactionary, which is definitely where I struggle.
Totally. Yeah, I do too. I'm right there with you. And we've even said, like, sat down with them and be like, okay, we got to address this. Kind of like you said, you got to nip this in the bud right away. We got to address this now. But we've sat down with them, and here's what happened. Here's why it's wrong. We need some apologies and, things along those lines. And then said, we're not sure what your consequence is going to be yet.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about it. We're going to pray about it. And then we'll let you know, kind of a thing. But there will be, some sort of a consequence. So in times where I'm just like, man, what the heck do I do in this situation? What consequence do I give for this? Then I feel like, okay, we've addressed it, but then there's still a consequence for it. And I just think that's huge. Like, I just know with my students in the classroom, like me, if I were to yell, which I rarely do in the classroom. My kids, okay, sure. Maybe a little more, but it is not effective. It just goes in one ear and out the other.
Yeah,
and it's like they just won't. They just don't listen. So I had to learn that early on. I thought by raising my voice, I thought by yelling and stuff that would be effective. Well, when they're younger, maybe they're still afraid of you, but man, when they get to be teenagers, not so much.
Have you had a scenario? And I'm asking because I'm in the middle of this right now with one of these kids, where you calmly, like, all right, completely unacceptable. We're going to move on from this and we'll come back. Mom and I will talk. Consequence will follow. Sure. Then you come back and you're like, all right, listen, this is the deal. No video games all week. No, whatever the consequence is, right? Yep. And they just like blow up and lose it, probably worse than the reason that they're in the situation to begin with. Like, how have you guys navigated? Do you just stack more? Do you breathe through? Do you just, how does that work for you guys?
Yeah. So we do. We stack more, but at the same time, we realize that we're trying to de-escalate that situation, you know, try to prevent them from getting themselves. So we will, at times, we will send them to the room. Like, listen, you're going to get more consequences. Here's what I'm going to tell you. You need to leave right now.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the consequences will be worse. You need to go in your room right now before you get anything.
Yeah.
So we've had some success with that, but at the same time, it has built on top of each other because they just can't handle their tongue, you know, at that time.
So a big win is learning, and I'm sure you've had to learn maybe from some losses in this, but learning not to maybe react in the moment to inappropriate behavior and just lash out in a consequence.
Yeah.
So taking the time to breathe, talk it over with a spouse, come back, that's been like a huge win.
Totally. That's huge.
That's great.
But at the same time, I do think it's good for our kids to see that we are angry. We are upset, you know, about them, and so I do want them to see that I am upset about that. I'm not, I'm not calm about every little thing because this is a major, you know, this is a major deal kind of a thing.
Yeah,
and so I do think it's good for them to see we are upset, and we are angry, and we are hurt, you know, at that same time. So
yeah. What about a lesson or plural? I mean. What's something that you feel thus far in your career as a dad, something that you've learned, and maybe you've had to learn the hard way, but maybe you've had opportunity to correct, or you hope there will be opportunity to correct in the future?
Yeah. So I would say it was hard for us to learn this, that, you know, no matter what foundation we've laid, which we've tried to do, lay a biblical foundation, you know, for them. No matter what foundation we've laid, no matter what, you know, effort we've put into helping them in their relationship with the Lord and helping them be good people and helping them point them in the right direction. Like ultimately, it's not in our control. Like there's a lot we can do, and I don't want to make it seem like it's not. There's a lot we can do, but ultimately it really is up to the Lord. And I haven't been looking forward to that point where my kids get to where, and they're there now, that their relationship becomes their relationship with the Lord instead of mom and dad's relationship with the Lord, you know, kind of thing. And that was scary. You know, that's a scary point for me. And we're kind of in the middle, you know, of that, in that right now. But just the realization that, again, I don't want to make it sound like we did everything right, because we didn't. We have so many, we learn from our mistakes, right? And that's, so we do. But we did everything that we knew what to do, and we did everything that we thought was right, with many, many mistakes along the way.
Yeah.
But then, you know, your kids will still, they'll still fail, and I shouldn't say fail, but they'll still fall, you know, kind of a thing. No matter what you do. So ultimately it is in God's control. You know, it's kind of like we do, I know I heard a quote about past President Adams that said, you know, we do our duty, and we let God handle the outcome, you know, kind of a thing. And so that's kind of how I look at parenting. I thought if we did everything we knew to be right, that it would almost be just a rubber stamp. Like, okay, this is guaranteed. You know, kind of a guarantee. They're gonna serve the Lord, and they're not gonna get involved in the worldly things because we've done everything that we know to be right. But ultimately, it's in God's control. And honestly, when we realized that, probably within the last year, really, where it really hit us because of, you know, an issue that we had to deal with our kids, and it was almost freeing. In a sense, it was almost like this weight, you know, was kind of lifted off. Like, oh my gosh, you're right. It is ultimately up to God. God is in control of them, and it is going to be their relationship. It doesn't have to be my relationship anymore. So that was a huge weight off of our shoulders, just to come to that realization. And why didn't I think of that earlier? I don't know. But
did you have something follow up to that?
No.
Okay. So the I think biblically that is God's call to probably all parents. Like, trust me, like to walk in that peace or that freedom that you describe. Is there any like practical steps or encouragement that you could have either given to yourself 10 years ago or to us or other dads now to rest in that freedom, to engage that freedom? Maybe not, because maybe it's circumstantial and you got to wait till your kids come to a certain age, and you don't have to air out, details of anything. But like, what would be an encouragement for us to learn that now instead of having to learn that lesson a harder way in the future?
Yeah.
Do you have any practicals?
No, totally. I would say a couple things. Like I kind of camp on Proverbs 22:6, and if that's the incorrect verse, you can edit it, right?
Yeah.
And so train up a child in the way they should go, and when they're old, they won't depart.
Right.
And so I've camped out on those. I've seen that in action in my siblings' lives. I've seen that in the lives of others that eventually, they do come back to the Lord if they were raised in the Lord. Mm-hmm. But again, ultimately, it's their decision, kind of a thing. So I would say that would be a big thing for me is just to remind myself that, again, God is in control, and when I've done everything that I can do, that I need to just trust Him.
Right.
That ultimately they will be, that they will ultimately end up in their relationship, with the Lord.
It's really hard because like you're taking your most valuable possession, right? And it's really a partnership with God where you're like, hey, I'm going to try to do my part as best as I can, which is sometimes kind of a joke, right? And then just trust that God does the rest. And we talked about this actually a little bit last time on the last podcast, which was, like you train up a child in the way they should go, and like they always won't go the way that you think they're going to go, and they probably don't go all the way that like God wants them to go. They go, they walk away for a little bit, or they'll maybe disobey for a little bit. But like I think eventually, like if you train them up the way they should go, they'll eventually like come back, right? Mm-hmm. And they'll always have that like you'll I think I said it last time, like they'll never be able to walk away from God with the clean conscience, right? Mm-hmm. So you put that conscience in them. And then like, I think it's just,
yep.
But that's definitely hard. And I think that takes a lot of pressure off parents too, to like, hey, I'm doing my best. God, I trust God is going to have to do the rest. Cause like, I sometimes pray this to God. I'll be like, hey, he's your kid. Like you deal with him. Like, what do you want me to do? Like, I'm not doing a very good job. Like, you need to take it over from here. So like, but yeah, that's actually like, I could see how that would be very freeing to just be, hey, I'm doing my best. And you're coming close to the end too. So you're like, I'm doing my best. And so,
yeah, for sure. But we didn't get there until we saw the child fall. We didn't get there because, again, we thought that if we were doing the things that we've been told to do, and we have them at church and everything, that somehow they would make this perfect path. But we're in a fallen world, so.
Do you think of like you're saying we didn't get there until this happened? Could you have like gotten there before that? Like, would it have just come from trusted voices that's like, hey, you're doing great. Don't wear some of these other losses? Or do you think that's something that's just, for some of us, we can get there just with wisdom from others, trusting. And some of us, we kind of have to fall ourselves to learn that it's going to be okay.
Yeah. I think we had to see that we thought that there were certain lines that wouldn't be crossed.
Okay.
Because of how we raised them. And some of those lines were crossed, and sure. I think we needed to see that, because up to that point, I mean, maybe we thought that our kids had gotten to this point because of something that we had done, rather than really what the Lord, and that was a big one for me. Like, Brandon, you can't really take credit for for this. Come on, it really was me, God. Yeah. So I don't think that anyone. I think we had to see. I think we had to see it, and I think we had to see that we're fallible, and everything that we did is never going to be good enough. Yeah. To ensure that they're going to stay on that one straight path. Right. So. Looking back, I mean, I think that's very ignorant. Yeah. But it was never necessarily anything that we, talked about. But I guess maybe just kind of subliminal in the back of our mind, kind of thing.
Have there been in this kind of process too? Have there been lies that you feel have been like you could have done more? You should have read more chapters of the Bible, or you didn't pray enough with them, or you didn't say no to those meetings when you should have been home. How do you battle those?
Oh. Parent guilt.
Yeah.
Gosh, it's everything. Mm-hmm. I mean, you'll wear yourself out. Yeah. So parent guilt. You think every little imperfection in your kid is because of you.
You missed it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And good parents that care about their kids, I think they will look at those things and say, okay, so here's what happened with this kid, so I'm going to do it different with this kid. Yeah. Like as if something that you did, or didn't do,
there's a missing ingredient or something. Yeah,
right, exactly. So I think parent guilt is real, and especially parents that care, that do love and care about their kids, So as far as battling that, I guess I would just say I'll talk with, kind of like you guys are doing. I'll talk with other dads. I'll talk with other parents. Yeah, and just kind of talk it through, with them. Have them pray with me. Yeah, I've done that a lot. And
this is where misery loves company comes in. You're doing it wrong too. Yeah, okay, yeah. I feel a lot better now.
It really is. It really is so freeing to have people that are in your life, their dads and stuff that are open and honest, about their imperfections, about their parenting. And parenting is, I think, the hardest thing I've ever done. Bar none.
Yes.
And I didn't expect that. I did not expect that. So rewarding, absolutely, but I didn't expect it to be so hard. Yeah. The Dobson book, parenting isn't for cowards.
Yeah,
kind of a thing, and it is. It's hard sometimes because you love the kids so much. It's hard to give them that consequence, and yet, we're not. I'm not doing him any favors by letting him off the off the hook on that. I think that's a big one. The consequence and the action, behind that. I realized so much that just talking is great. We need to do that. We need to keep an open dialogue, but just talking, or I should rather say lecturing my kids just has not produced a lot of
doesn't
fruit.
Work.
It doesn't work. I can tell them why and logical and everything, but honestly, I found that with my kids, I just need to tell them what it is, tell them why, make it short, not continuously repeat in this cycle, and then as a result, here's why. I explained why what you do is wrong. As a result, here's your consequence, kind of a thing. And I found that to be the best recipe for that.
That's great, man.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Any other gems for us?
I don't know if I've served up any gems.
No, man, this is great. I mean, you came in with some notes. I just want to make sure you're not leaving without anything that you felt was like, oh, this I want to.
No, I think a lot of this was helpful for me. I mean, especially just considering what I'm going through with my kids right now. It's just so good to I think the thing that really resonates with me is hey, to just pause and think of the consequences and talk them out, because you're right, lecturing just doesn't work. Doesn't work. Actually, I think it makes them probably like me a little less. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think the big thing for me is so what when I was about like 11, I think was when I really started like getting really, really angry with my dad, because my dad was like a yeller too. And so like I have this like thing with my kid where it's like he's about that age where I got really like angry with my dad, and so like I'm really like sensitive that like, oh my gosh, this is where I flipped. Like I got to
if I don't like I could mess this up.
And like everything I do, I second guess it because I'm like, oh my gosh, like he's just so fragile right now. You know, I don't want to like turn him into like the angry kid that I was. You know, so I really need like these types of strategies. Yeah,
yeah, absolutely. You know, sometimes I feel so ill-equipped. You know, sometimes I feel so cool. Sometimes I feel like I'm killing it. Sometimes I feel so ill-equipped, you know, to be a dad. I mean, there's not a perfect. There's some great books out there, and I would absolutely recommend. But you know, there's not a perfect formula,
right?
You know, for raising a good human being and raising somebody that has a deep relationship, you know, with the Lord. There are a lot of things we can do, but sometimes I just feel really inadequate. And the Lord's reminded me, like, you know, Brandon, I know you feel inadequate. I know you feel like you're not doing a great job, but out of all the people in this, you know, in this world that, you know, that that I could have entrusted this child with, I entrusted him with you. And that's pretty humbling, you know, kind of a thing. I'm like, why me, God? You clearly see I'm not doing a spectacular job, or at least I'm not feeling like it, you know, at this time. But he reminds me of that. Like, he could have chosen anyone for this kid, but he specifically chose me, you know, for this, for this particular child. And I want to take that, you know, seriously. But then I also want to encourage, you know, dads that maybe don't feel like they're equipped, you know, to raise a particular child or to raise any of them, that God has entrusted that particular child with you and nobody else.
Yeah.
And that's a huge, I guess that's a huge revelation, I guess, for me, that I'm like, okay, well, if he chose me, then he must trust me, and he knows that I can be capable with his help and guiding. Right. So, okay, I can do this, you know, kind of a thing. So
that's a beautiful, I think, punctuation to even this conversation, Brandon. And can we close with you just praying for dads, for us in these spaces of feeling so inadequate and feeling like there's more lessons than there are wins in our columns right now. I think that's a great spot to wrap this up.
Yeah. God, I just thank you that you have entrusted us dads to raise these kids, and you handpicked us, you handpicked our children, God, and you gave them to us. You entrusted them to us, and that's a big responsibility, and we don't take that lightly, God. But we know that with your guiding, that with your help, Lord, as long as we keep our hearts open and our minds open to you, and as long as we continually check ourselves and check our hearts and make sure that we are seeking you and you're seeking your will, God, that you will forgive us for all of our imperfections that we will have, that we've had and that we will have in the future, and we don't have to be condemned by our failures, but God, we know that you have a plan for our kids, and you have a plan to prosper them. And thank you that we can be a part of that. Thank you that we can have a huge effect on them and their lives in raising them. But God, thank you that ultimately you are in control, and ultimately they're not our kids, but they're your kids. And so we just pray for the strength. I pray for dads out there that are feeling inadequate, that are feeling like they've made mistakes in the past, and there's no point in correcting. God, I just pray that you would encourage them, and encourage them that maybe that they feel like that it's too late. They don't have a relationship with their kids. It's never too late, God, because you can touch their hearts. You can do miracles. I just praise you for the Nathans, and that they heard your voice, and they decided to step into this ministry. I just pray, God, that not my words would be heard, God, but your words through me, Lord. And I just pray that lives could be changed, encouraged through this. In your name, amen.
Man, thanks for hanging.
Yesterday is over and the future has come. Are you